With even more Spider-Man brand new day set photos releasing every single day, it seems like this movie is the only thing that any Spider-Man fan can talk about right now. However, for some reason, this started to get me to think back to all the other Spider-Man movies, and how for some of them, the general opinion has changed a lot. After No Way Home released, people started to appreciate what TASM 1 was trying to do, and finally realized how good Homecoming was. But there are 3 Spider-Man movies that haven't really changed when it comes to what people think of them that much, and have always really just been stuck with the same group of people swearing that they're underrated. Those movies being Spider-Man 3, TASM 2, and Spider-Man Far From Home. So today, I wanted to look back on these movies and give my very quick thoughts on them, to see if I end up changing my mind and agreeing that these movies are underrated, or completely disagree. Starting off with Spider-Man 3. This movie's kind of a weird case due to the amount of iconic memes that came out of it. If you go into this movie just expecting to have a fun time and to just laugh at the memes, then you'll definitely enjoy it a lot. However, if you go into this movie from a "is this actually a good movie" perspective, then you'll start to notice how apparent the problems are in this movie. Like the atrocious dialogue.
Hey, Parker.
My God, Eddie!
Ooh, my spider sense is tingling. If you know what I'm talking about. You made me lose my girl. Now I'm gonna make you lose yours. How's that sound, Tiger?
Let it go.
I like being bad.
It makes me happy.
The main problem that I have with the story is the fact that it feels like it tries to accomplish way too much in such a short amount of time, and since it doesn't have the time to properly flesh out what it wants to do, it causes some plotlines to be sidelined for a really long time in the movie. Like for example, Harry getting a concussion and then doing nothing 80% of the movie. And speaking of Harry, his transformation into a villain feels really rushed, unbelievable, and kinda confusing. The last movie made it seem like Harry didn't know if he even wanted to take revenge on Peter after finding out that he was Spider-Man. But then we cut to the third movie and all of a sudden he's a full-on villain without any explanation. As for the other villains in this movie like Sandman and Venom, well, Sandman for the most part is pretty good in this movie, but his motivations towards the end don't really make any sense. For some reason, Sandman decides to join Venom in order to get revenge on Peter. Like, I know that Peter tried to kill him and everything, but I feel like it's still an out-of-character decision. I really wish they added a scene into this movie that was similar to the game, where Eddie kidnaps Sandman's daughter and forces him to help him. Yeah, you know, the Spider-Man 3 movie game. I bet you forgot that existed for a while. Sandman is also completely fine with stopping Peter from saving MJ, which doesn't really make any sense considering that his entire character is that he doesn't want to hurt anyone. And from his perspective, I'm pretty sure MJ is just a regular person that got dragged into this. And as for Venom himself, well, he's not the greatest, but he's also not terrible. You know, it's really refreshing looking back and seeing a Venom that isn't a giant hulking monster, and is always trying to take over the world every 5 seconds. As I was saying earlier though, Venom isn't really that great of a character. I really wish we got more scenes showing us why Eddie thinks the way he does and why he would go as far as to wish death on Peter Parker, before he even knew that he was Spider-Man. There's also a lot of MJ and Peter stuff going on in this movie, but if I'm being honest, it all feels really forced. I'm not saying there shouldn't have been any drama or anything, but there has to have been a better way to do it. Peter literally cheats on MJ in front of her with Gwen and then later tries to justify it, which then results in MJ continuing her cheating spree and kissing Harry, because it isn't a movie in the original Spider-Man trilogy without someone cheating for some reason. It isn't all bad though, since this movie has a lot of themes that I really do like, especially involving the black suit. I like how the black suit represents addiction and how we get to see how much Peter changes and how it affects everyone around him. This movie does have its good scenes, even if some of them were rushed and could have been built up to more properly. Overall, this movie was very disappointing, but I still do have a lot of nostalgia for it. So with all that being said, let's throw Spider-Man 3 to the wayside and start talking about the next movie. That being TASM 2. Just like Spider-Man 3, I really like the themes in this movie a lot. Upon rewatching this movie, you start to realize that this movie is all about time, and how no matter what you do, you're always gonna run out of it. And also how no matter how much you want things to go perfectly for you, life just doesn't work that way. But no matter what happens, you have to keep moving forward and be who you want to be. I think these are very interesting and very fitting themes for a Spider-Man movie, and I often see that these themes are very glossed over, which I think is a shame. And these themes in the movie get enhanced by everyone's amazing acting and portrayal of these characters, for the most part. Thanks to Andrew Garfield's acting, Spider-Man, just like the first movie, is great. And so is his chemistry with Gwen Stacy, once again due to Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone's amazing acting. This movie is also a visual masterpiece, with almost every scene looking insanely good. Another good thing about this movie is the action sequences, since they're really good at building up tension and hype, and the choreography is really good. Obviously, the most talked about scene in this movie is Gwen's death. This scene is another great example of Andrew Garfield's acting, and how great it actually is. Even though some things were rushed just so we could get to this scene, it still has an insane impact, and the scene itself is great. Sadly, however, that's kinda where the positives end for me. This movie is way too fast-paced for everything that it wants to do, which results in pretty much almost every plotline becoming a mess. Another reason why this movie feels like a mess is because of characters that are in it that also feel like a mess. Those characters specifically being the villains, and those villains being Rhino, Electro, and Green Goblin. Everybody knows that Rhino sucks, so let's just move on to Electro. I used to think that Electro's character was really stupid, and while I do still kinda think that, I can kinda appreciate what they were trying to go for, with the whole misunderstood, heartbreaking character kinda thing. However, the moment where he becomes an actual villain is really rushed in my opinion. It happens when a cop shoots him, which ends up making Electro think that Spider-Man set him up, and this is the one moment that makes him a full-on villain. The movie before made it clear how big of a Spider-Man fan he was, so I doubt something like this would make him turn against him. And even if he did think that Spider-Man set him up, I don't think that would be enough to make him turn into a full-on villain. And as for the Green Goblin, well, he's just not it. He goes all supervillain mode because Peter doesn't want to give him his blood, even though he gives the very reasonable explanation that it might kill him quicker. However, I will say that Peter visiting Harry just for the first things to come out of his mouth be, "I can't give you my blood," maybe wasn't the best decision, and is unironically really funny to me. This movie tries doing a lot of things, but I still feel like it ended up pretty basic. That's pretty much all I have to say about TASM 2, so now let's move on to the final movie that we're going to be talking about, that being Spider-Man Far From Home. Upon rewatching this movie, I've come to agree that this movie is very overhated. However, that doesn't mean that it's good. Let's start off with the main character, and arguably one of the worst characters in this movie, Peter Parker. The main scene in this movie that makes me really not like Peter is the scene where Nick Fury is talking to him, and is explaining to him that he needs to help Mysterio stop the elementals or else the entire Earth will be destroyed. And Peter, instead of accepting the fact that he's not going to be able to go on his vacation and that he needs to save the Earth, refuses to help and tries to make excuses so he can go back to MJ. We're supposed to believe that this is the same guy that left Liz at homecoming to stop the Vulture. We're really supposed to believe that this is the same guy who left his other school trip to stop Thanos? I am sorry, but I just don't buy it, and this really feels like an insane out-of-character decision. Peter in this movie is also just insanely dumb. He almost kills Brad on the bus in a scene that's actually pretty funny if you don't think about it too much. And then he gives Edith to Mysterio, a guy he just met, because once again, he wants to go to his vacation and not be Spider-Man.
This isn't Coney Island, this isn't field trip, this is a one-way ticket. You hear me? Don't pretend you thought this through. I know you didn't. You could not have possibly thought this through.
You can't be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man if there's no neighborhood.
You're coming with us.
I'm sorry, did you say Prague? Mr. Fury, this all seems like big time, you know, huge superhero kind of stuff. And, I mean, I'm just a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, sir.
Bitch, please, you've been to space.
I know, but that was an accident, sir. Come on, there's gotta be someone else you can use. I know, but that was an accident, sir. Come on, there's gotta be some... I know, but that was an accident, sir. Come on, there's gotta be some...
What's the matter with you kids? You never seen a spaceship before?
See, now that's some bullshit.
It also feels like this movie has a lot of elements that were wasted potential. For example, one of them being Aunt May. Homecoming made it seem like it would have been a really big deal if Aunt May found out that Peter was Spider-Man, but then we cut to Far From Home where we get hit with a multiple year time skip and now Aunt May is totally fine with Peter being Spider-Man. I know the plot isn't trying to focus on Aunt May, why would it be, that's not what I'm trying to say, but I just wish we got a line or something acknowledging the Homecoming ending. And no, this scene later in the trilogy with No Way Home doesn't count because it's not acknowledging the ending of Homecoming. It's just saying how Aunt May currently feels about Peter being Spider-Man. Later in the movie, Peter gets a new suit in order to hide the fact that he's Spider-Man, and this would be a good reason to get a new suit if the suit that he made at the end of the movie didn't look, call me crazy, a little too much like Spider-Man. I also feel like I'm the only one that finds the scene where he gets the stealth suit really unfunny and kinda weird actually. Peter is like 17 years old in this and he's being forced to get undressed in front of this random woman that he's never met. And then Brad walks in, which is the worst character in this movie. He's just annoying and all he does is complain and it becomes genuinely hard to watch any scene that he's in. Anytime that he appears, I just want to skip forward. Our other side characters in this movie are Betty, Ned, and MJ. And while enjoyable to watch on screen, are the most bland and nothing burger characters out there. And the movie does not take any opportunities to develop them. We don't even know why Peter likes MJ, all we know is that he does. If you don't take it too seriously though, Ned is still the GOAT. And another GOAT in this movie is Mysterio. Mysterio is genuinely such a good villain in this movie and every scene that he's in is amazing. Especially the ones after the villain reveal. The illusion scenes are top notch and so is Jake Gyllenhaal's acting. Unfortunately, the main story in this movie also just really sucks. It's focused on the fact that Peter doesn't need to become the next Iron Man, but right after the scene where Peter supposedly learns this, we get an Iron Man reference and Peter makes a new suit. There's also this really random side plot with Peter's spider sense that only gets mentioned at the beginning and at the end of the movie. And for some reason it gets treated like an arc that Peter had to go through, when it really wasn't. So I just finished talking about all the problems that this movie has, and so you probably think that I hate this movie by now. But surprisingly, I don't, because somehow even though this movie is riddled with problems, it still manages to be insanely enjoyable. That's right, I said insanely 2 times, that's how you know it's serious. So yeah, overall, it's very overhated, but it's still riddled with problems, but at least Mysterio and enjoyability carry. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about these movies, but before I end this video, I just want to reinforce the fact that I don't think any of these are bad movies, and that I very much still like them. So, looking back, do I think these Spider-Man movies are underrated? Not really, but also kind of. These are very much still the weakest Spider-Man movies, not counting these ones, but there's still a lot to enjoy in each of them. And remember, this is just my opinion, and if you disagree, that's totally fine. Feel free to comment down below what you agreed or disagreed with, or just to point out something that I got wrong. Just don't take it too seriously. This isn't supposed to be some sort of heated discussion. So with all that being said, I'll see you on the next video, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Go fire all the drones now!